But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger.
When the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart just moments after takeoff, the world watched in horror. But beyond the smoke and shattered dreams, one haunting question remained. What happened to the brave astronauts who were on board? Stay with us, because the truth about their final moments and the fate of their bodies is both heartbreaking and deeply human. The day hope vanished into the sky. On the morning of January 28, 1986, the United States awoke to a sense of pride and anticipation. The sky above Cape Canaveral, Florida, was impeccably clear, adorned with a spectrum of blue hues. Towering proudly against the backdrop was the Challenger space shuttle, serving as a beacon of bravery and accomplishment. 7 fearless astronauts were prepared to embark on a journey towards the heavens, their spirits filled with aspirations and their expressions radiating optimism. Commander Francis Scobie, exuding a sense of tranquility and poise, guided the team with a subtle assurance. Pilot Michael Smith stood by his side, displaying intense concentration and unwavering courage. Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, and Ronald McNair brought a wealth of experience and relentless perseverance to the project. Gregory Jarvis, as the payload specialist, meticulously prepared his experiments with meticulous attention to detail. And then there was Krista McAuliffe, the educator who had captured the affection of millions. She was on the brink of making history as the first civilian to venture into space, a moment that held the potential to motivate youngsters around the globe. At precisely 11:38 a.m., the timer reached 0. A deafening noise echoed through the atmosphere as flames erupted beneath the shuttle. Gradually picking up speed, Challenger ascended from the platform, leaving a picturesque trail of white smoke swirling in the clear sky. Everything appeared flawless for a total of 73 seconds. Students in classrooms all over the country erupted in cheers and waves. Broadcasters beamed with pride as they reported live. The loved ones of the astronauts stood at the observation site, filled with a mix of happiness and apprehension, holding their breath. At 11:39, everything took a different turn. In the sky, a bright light suddenly appeared. The shuttle appeared to bend and fracture. In just a few seconds, it disappeared into a large cloud of smoke and flames. The peaceful blue morning transformed into a chaotic and sorrowful sight. The cause of the tragedy was something unexpected. A small rubber ring, the specific O-ring on the rocket booster, had broken in the extreme cold. This minor flaw resulted in gas escaping, sparking a flame that triggered a series of disastrous events. Within a brief moment of less than 2 minutes following the commencement of the flight, the Challenger had vanished. There was a moment of disbelief as everyone processed what they had witnessed. The room grew quiet as people looked up at the sky with expressions of shock and disbelief. Some clung to the hope that it was all part of the plan, a temporary glitch that could be resolved. However, the harsh reality slowly dawned on everyone. He spoke with a heavy heart, uttering the words slowly. It appears there was a significant issue. The global audience was shocked by the events unfolding. Journalists were hesitant and hushed in their discussions, wondering about the fate of the crew. Thoughts of possible survival led to prayers for any indication of life. But unfortunately, there were no signs of hope. As debris fell into the Atlantic Ocean, only wisps of smoke remained in the sky. After the noise settled, a strange quietness overtook the atmosphere, a quietness that brought with it surprise, sorrow, and doubt. The joy that had previously permeated the hearts of many transformed into a profound feeling of loss that extended globally. Educational institutions fell silent. Offices where news is worked on became motionless. It even appeared as though the heavens themselves were grieving. The day was meant to be a celebration of success, where a teacher's accomplishments would shine bright and leave a lasting impact. However, it quickly turned into a day of heartbreak as hopes came crashing down. After the crash, a rescue operation was initiated. What did they find? Stay with us. When hope sank beneath the waves, Initially, the operation was labeled as a search. Despite the slim chance, there was a glimmer of hope that life could be discovered within the icy depths of the Atlantic. Ships designated for rescue raced across the sea, with crews diligently scouring the vast expanse for any indication of life, whether it be a stray object or a faint signal of survival. However, as time ticked by and darkness enveloped the surroundings, that hopeful outlook started to diminish. The initial frantic quest for survivors soon transformed into a sorrowful mission to retrieve bodies. The Challenger was destroyed by an explosion 48,000 feet above the ocean, ripping it into thousands of pieces. The once pristine white shuttle was now debris spread across miles of sea. The clear blue sky of Florida was now covered in smoke, masking the tragic fate of 7 courageous individuals beneath the waters. On the tragic evening, NASA officially announced the devastating news that there were no survivors. The initial sense of excitement from the mission had now turned to grief. The focus had now changed from a rescue operation to a recovery mission, locating the wreckage, investigating the cause of the tragedy, and salvaging whatever was possible. NASA quickly assembled a large team made up of military, civilian, and federal personnel, with the common objective of conducting a comprehensive search, retrieval, and rebuilding effort. The recovery vessels, Freedom Star and Liberty Star, were dispatched to the crash site along with military aircraft and ships to survey the extensive debris field. However, the threat persisted as fragments from the blast continued to fall from the sky, prompting the recovery teams to maintain a safe distance until later in the day. Throughout the course of the day, the search operation expanded both in size and vigor. As the clock struck 7 in the evening, a total of 12 aircrafts and 8 ships had been mobilized to assist in the mission. In pairs, divers cautiously dived into the icy waters, their beams of light piercing through the pitch-black darkness. Each descent was a challenging blend of strength, bravery, and sorrow. Among the items retrieved were fragments of metal, ripped wires, and sections of insulation, remnants of an object that had once aspired to touch the skies. In the following days, the mission grew larger. The United States Navy was requested on January 31st to start deep-sea retrieval efforts. The main goals were to discover the correct booster, locate the crew compartment, and salvage as many parts of the orbiter as they could. Submarines and sophisticated sonar technology were used by the Navy to search for any potential leads on the seabed. In February, there were 16 ships involved in the mission, with different affiliations to NASA, the Navy, the Air Force, and private companies. Advanced sonar technology was used to explore vast ocean areas at various depths, revealing numerous potential findings that evoked feelings of both optimism and despair. Of the numerous signals detected, only 187 were validated as genuine components of the Challenger. The search was meticulous and time-consuming. Each piece uncovered held significance, a moment frozen in history. The extraction of the solid rocket boosters posed a significant risk. They held unstable, unburned propellant, which had become volatile when submerged. Divers and technicians treated them with utmost caution, ensuring the pieces remained wet until safely ashore. Sonar readings in March first revealed a significant discovery that piqued the interest of many. It was suspected to be a fragment of the faulty booster joint that had led to the failure. Submersibles confirmed this finding on April 5th and 12th after weeks of investigation. The damaged field joint was ultimately retrieved from the ocean floor on April 13th, a pivotal development in unraveling the disaster's mystery. Navy ships above the waves diligently monitored the waters as aircraft captured images and followed the floating debris. Divers meticulously combed through the search areas daily, retrieving any items they could find. Each discovery evoked a range of feelings, a sense of accomplishment for their perseverance, yet also sadness for the significance of what was found. Stretching across hundreds of miles, the debris field painted a somber picture of shattered hopes and lives lost. By the end of April, more than 100 tons of debris had been located. Almost half of the shuttle's complete weight had been accounted for. The remaining wreckage was still submerged in the ocean, concealed by layers of sand and the passage of time. The recovered pieces were meticulously organized within a hangar at Kennedy Space Center. Engineers methodically pieced together the orbiter, like assembling a massive, somber puzzle. Every bolt, panel, and wire provided valuable insight into the shuttle's last moments in flight. During the investigation, researchers revealed the tragic events that led to the crew's demise, starting with a minor leak in the joint of the right booster, the subsequent flame release, and the ultimate ignition of the external fuel tank. The Rogers Commission meticulously documented each stage of the recovery process, capturing not only the technical discoveries, but also the profound emotional impact of the operation. This undertaking was among the most extensive recovery missions ever conducted in the United States, requiring the involvement of numerous divers, extensive hours of sonar scanning, and the determined perseverance of individuals who remained steadfast in their refusal to abandon the mission. Behind the statistics and documents, there were emotions and personal stories. The halls at Kennedy Space Center were quiet, devoid of the joyful sounds that used to fill them. Walking past deserted workstations, the engineers who worked on the shuttle were visibly upset. The individuals who dedicated themselves to advancing space exploration were confronted with the harsh realities of pursuing that goal. The entire nation came together to grieve for weeks. Schools observed quiet moments to honor the fallen. News reporters spoke with emotion, struggling to deliver the latest news. People from all corners of the country showed their support through letters, flowers, and candles. Despite the loss of 7 heroes, their legacy continued to shine brightly, the sky that never forgot. The families of Francis Scobie, Michael Smith, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe experienced a mix of emotions when the Challenger was recovered. Witnessing their loved ones' brave smiles as they embarked on their space journey was both a closure and a source of unbearable grief. These 7 individuals had aspirations of reaching the stars, and while their lives were cut short, their bravery transcended the boundaries of the sky. The individuals who lost their lives on that fateful day were more than just space travelers. They were visionaries, educators, and enthusiasts of learning and exploration. They held strong belief in the notion that mankind could continuously strive for greater heights, viewing the unfamiliar as a challenge rather than a threat. Their tragic demise transcended beyond a mere national catastrophe. It stood as a representation of courage, optimism, and the sacrifices made in the name of advancement. Despite the passage of time, the memories of that day are still clear in my mind. The sight of the shuttle rising in the sky, the excited shouts of the crowd, and then suddenly, the explosion and the smoke that looked like shattered wings. This moment stunned the nation and served as a stark reminder that even the most amazing accomplishments can be destroyed in a moment, and that dreams, however lovely, are delicate. However, retrieving the Challenger was not solely focused on recovering lost items. It involved acknowledging the harsh reality that progress often involves taking risks. So, what was the true cause of this disaster? What did investigations reveal? Let's find out. The story, hidden beneath the crash. When the initial remnants of the Challenger spacecraft emerged from the frigid waters of the Atlantic, the true account they held was beyond anyone's imagination. The damaged metal, charred edges, and tangled wires were not just mere wreckage. They represented a shattered aspiration that had disintegrated high in the sky. Specialists and technicians toiled diligently and meticulously, examining scorch marks, fractures, and warped panels for extended periods. Their primary objective was not to cast blame or accuse anyone. Rather, they were focused on uncovering solutions. Their aim was to comprehend the root cause of the mishap, meticulously analyze every instant of the tragedy, and gain insight into the final experiences of the courageous 7 astronauts. Utilizing information obtained from the shuttle's equipment, flight data, and various components that were recovered, the investigative team embarked on reconstructing the sequence of events gradually. It was a meticulous process, however. Over time, the reality started to unveil itself. What caused the demise of the Challenger was unexpectedly minute. A rubber O-ring on the right solid rocket booster that did not seal properly due to the frigid temperatures in the morning. This minuscule opening allowed a stream of fire to escape, melting through the metal shell of the rocket and penetrating the huge external fuel tank. In a matter of moments, the combination of liquid hydrogen and oxygen ignited, resulting in the colossal explosion that ripped the shuttle into pieces. Despite the destructive force of the explosion, a portion of the spacecraft managed to remain intact, the crew cabin. This section broke away from the rest of the orbiter and ascended before descending back to the sea. The finding was emotionally devastating. suggesting that the crew could have potentially survived the initial blast. This realization transformed the entire nature of the ensuing rescue effort. The Navy and Air Force increased their efforts to find the cabin by using sonar and submersibles to explore the ocean floor. Despite the deep, dark, and cold water, they persisted in their search until they finally located the cabin on March 7, 1986. Divers discovered the crew compartment roughly 100 feet below the surface. The following day, it was verified that the cabin had withstood the explosion, but was destroyed upon impact with the ocean. The emotional moment when the crew was rescued will be remembered as a significant event in NASA's history. Respectful divers carefully recovered the remains, bringing them to the surface with great care. Each return trip to shore was filled with sadness. The USS Preserver transported the remains and fragments from the site, making several trips until early April. It wasn't until April 15th that astronaut Gregory Jarvis was finally located, weeks after the others were found. Pathologists were able to identify the remains, but the exact cause of death remained unknown. The most important thing was that these brave individuals were finally returned to their home. As recovery teams focused on the human aspect of the tragedy, investigators worked tirelessly to retrieve numerous fragments of the shuttle from the sea. They meticulously studied the upper stages of the rocket, engine parts, and other crucial elements. Initially, there were speculations that a different section of the spacecraft might have triggered the explosion accidentally, but the evidence collected disproved this theory. The engines were operating as expected until they ran out of fuel at the time of the blast. Every fragment that was recovered added a piece to the puzzle, painting a sorrowful and evident picture of the events that transpired. Deep water recovery efforts concluded by late spring. During the summer, smaller search missions persisted near the coastline, gathering pieces of debris. Numerous fragments were recovered, with more emerging over time. In 1996, 2 significant sections washed up on Cocoa Beach, and in 2022, a 20-foot portion of the shuttle was spotted near the wreckage of a World War II plane off the Florida coast. The sea appeared to retain the recollection of the tragic event. All inorganic waste was transported to Cape Canaveral and buried in 2 underground missile silos. It was not just concealed, but instead carefully interred. Resembling the conclusion of a tragic tale to NASA, it symbolized both a burial site and a memory. In a vast hangar, the engineers embarked on an unprecedented reconstruction project. They utilized steel frames and support beams to gradually assemble the basic structure of the Challenger. Each recovered panel and fragment was meticulously labeled and positioned in its rightful place. The specific solid rocket booster, which had experienced an O-ring failure, received particular focus. Evidence of burn marks and melted metal indicated the path of the fire that had escaped. It was through these intricate details that the true narrative of the tragedy unfolded. The Rogers Commission, tasked with examining the disaster, subsequently verified that the reconstruction of the wreckage played a crucial role in unraveling the mystery. It uncovered the precise sequence of events leading to the disaster, starting from the defective seal to the triggering of the fuel tank explosion. In addition, it unveiled flaws in NASA's safety protocols, communication channels, and decision-making processes. However, beneath the surface of these technical discoveries lay a more profound aspect: the emotional burden of the tragedy. During the inquiry, a lingering question persisted in everyone's mind: what truly happened to the crew, the brave souls of Challenger? Upon reaching the ocean floor where the Challenger crew cabin had settled, the divers were greeted by a solemn silence that spoke volumes of reverence and grief. Among the jumbled wreckage and scattered pieces, they stumbled upon what would later be identified as potential human remains by authorities. These delicate remnants of life, intermingled with the destruction, served as a touching reminder of the 7 astronauts who had bravely sacrificed all in pursuit of discovery. The process of retrieving the wreckage was painstaking and emotional. The shuttle had broken apart violently and crashed into the ocean at a high speed, leaving very little intact. The impact was so powerful that it made survival impossible. The pieces that were recovered were small and mixed together, making it extremely difficult to identify them separately. After being underwater for weeks, exposed to salt water and extreme pressure from the explosion, the remains had become incredibly delicate. However, the divers and experts who retrieved them handled each fragment with great care. aware that they were handling the last chapter of 7 remarkable lives. Forensic specialists and military medical examiners were brought in to supervise the operation. They conducted their duties with precision, order, and a profound sense of respect. Each fragment that was recovered was carefully recorded, protected, and managed according to strict military guidelines. Their objective was not to reveal the specific circumstances of each astronaut's death, but rather to gain insight into their possible last moments. The Rogers Commission later validated that human remains were discovered within the debris. However, few specifics were disclosed in consideration of the families involved. During that era, forensic science did not have the advanced DNA technology that is now present. Determining the identity of remains primarily involved examining anatomy and examining personal belongings found in the wreckage. Certain objects subtly hinted at the identities of the deceased: a marriage ring, a scrap of clothing, a tool. However, a number of remains were too heavily damaged or mingled together to be linked to specific individuals. Nonetheless, each stage of the procedure was directed with respect and empathy. Information from the debris indicated that the crew cabin stayed relatively undamaged for a short period following the explosion. It kept moving upwards before starting to descend towards the ocean. However, investigators determined that the crew probably passed out within moments of the breakup because of the rapid drop in cabin pressure and the intense forces involved. The ultimate crash, reaching speeds of almost 200 miles per hour, was deemed unsurvivable. This realization, while heartbreaking, brought some solace to mourning families who could think that their relatives did not experience prolonged suffering. After completing the recovery operations, NASA showed great sensitivity in handling the remains as per the wishes of each astronaut's family. Some remains were returned privately, while those that could not be distinguished were cremated together. On May 20, 1986, the collective remains were interred at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. The somber ceremony brought together relatives, colleagues, and leaders from around the country. Amidst the white headstones under the vast sky, a monument was erected in honor of the 7 Challenger crew members: Francis Scobie, Michael Smith, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Gregory Jarvis, and Sharon Christa McAuliffe. The names of the individuals are engraved on the stone, not to dwell on the past misfortune, but to honor their valor and aspirations. The stone remains quiet amidst the echoes of the past, softly conveying words of encouragement to those who come near. Their journey was not marked by failure, but by boldness, by individuals who took a chance reaching for the skies and consequently motivating future generations. NASA decided not to share images or specific accounts of the wreckage in order to respect the family's privacy and honor the deceased astronauts. It was emphasized that these individuals lost their lives while dedicating themselves to a greater mission. The space exploration initiative has always involved potential dangers, yet these 7 individuals were passionate about its objective: the quest for knowledge, the drive for exploration, and the unwavering belief in humanity's destiny to explore beyond our planet. In the aftermath, the Challenger disaster evolved into more than just a period of grieving for the nation. It transformed into a representation of strength. Various schools, grants, and establishments were dedicated to the astronauts. Youngsters discovered their identities, not from sorrow, but from encouragement. The tragedy influenced NASA's focus on safety and prompted enhancements to safeguard future adventurers. The Challenger crash didn't only bring sadness, it also pushed the space program to do better. How much of an impact did this tragedy bring to the flight community? Stick around. Rising again. After retrieving the parts of the Challenger shuttle from the Atlantic Ocean, the goal for the investigators was not only to determine the cause of the disaster, but also to prevent it from recurring. Recovering the crew cabin and the wreckage provided a sense of finality, while also uncovering insights that would revolutionize space exploration. Every broken piece of debris held a narrative. Each scratch, scorch mark, and breakage exposed the reality of the pivotal 73 seconds that altered the course of history. Information collected from radar, video footage, and the wreckage that was found was crucial in validating each aspect of the tragedy, from the malfunctioning O-ring in the booster to the moment the cabin detached and plummeted into the sea. These findings not only illuminated the cause of the disaster, but also steered the corrective actions that needed to be taken. NASA engineers immediately initiated a comprehensive overhaul of the solid rocket boosters with a clear mission to reinforce the vulnerable components that had resulted in the catastrophic events. The redesigned solid rocket motor, known as the new design, featured reinforced joints and an extra O-ring seal to avoid any potential leaks. Teams were established to oversee and verify each stage of the procedure meticulously. There was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere at NASA. Safety transformed from a mere regulation into a commitment. Instead of prioritizing timelines, the space agency now emphasized on safeguarding lives. Engineers collaborated closely with astronauts, supervisors, heeded cautionary advice, and every launch was conducted with a blend of ambition and prudence. The participation in the recovery mission had a lasting impact on those involved, as they were left with memories that did not diminish over time. Divers remembered the surreal calmness of the ocean bed, where fragments of the shuttle served as mute reminders of the disaster. Each time a component was retrieved from the bottom of the sea, it was more than just a physical task. It became a way to honor the memory of those lost. The items recovered from the depths were not just pieces of debris, but also symbols of the courage of the 7 adventurous astronauts. During the investigation, the team managed to assemble over 50% of the shuttle's full structure. The Rogers Commission, tasked with examining the disaster, focused a significant portion of its findings on the recovery efforts and the valuable insights gained. It exposed the negative impact of pushing for an excessively ambitious launch schedule, leading to risky choices. Initially, NASA had set a target of launching up to 24 shuttles annually, a goal that was now deemed hazardous. The report from the Commission brought about a permanent transformation in how NASA conducted its operations. President Ronald Reagan gave permission for the development of a new space shuttle to take the place of Challenger. This new orbiter would be named Endeavour. The purpose of building Endeavour was not only to fill the void left by the loss of Challenger, but also to continue the aspirations that had perished with it. Construction of Endeavour took place from 1987 to 1990, and it completed its inaugural flight in May 1992. This mission symbolized a fresh start, showing that despite adversity, advancement could prevail once more. Following the accident, the shuttle fleet was prohibited from flying for almost 3 years. During this period, engineers and scientists took the opportunity to overhaul all components of the system. Upon the resumption of flights in September 1988 with Discovery's launch, significant changes were evident. The revamped boosters functioned flawlessly, and the crew donned pressure suits for liftoff and landing as an added safety measure. The mission was a success, and upon Discovery's safe return, the celebrations at NASA were filled with a mix of joy and reflection. The aftermath of Challenger had been addressed, and its influence was soaring once again. Some pieces of Challenger are still kept at the Kennedy Space Center, hidden from the public eye. They are sometimes examined for scientific purposes or quietly remembered during ceremonies. To current NASA employees, these remnants are like quiet instructors, emphasizing the need for bravery and accountability in space exploration. Each bolt, seal, and launch checklist holds a part of Challenger's narrative. The tragic event brought about transformations in the way space exploration was approached by both NASA and the global community. These changes included the implementation of more stringent safety protocols, improved collaboration between engineers and leaders, and a reimagining of mission planning strategies. Furthermore, the decision was made to discontinue the transport of commercial satellites on the shuttle program, alleviating NASA from the constraints of strict commercial timelines. As a result, these satellites were launched utilizing disposable rockets, enabling the space shuttle to concentrate on scientific research, exploration, and educational endeavors. Beneath the ocean's surface, researchers uncovered not just damaged equipment, but also a symbol of how human capabilities and perseverance are tested. Delving deep, they realized that advancement demands taking chances, yet these risks need to be weighed against the value of human life. Through their investigation, they came to understand that adversity can spur development and that enduring transformation can arise from moments of despair. What do you think about the Challenger disaster? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.